In a recent video, we discussed the Padawan massacre carried out by the Jedi Covenant and the story of the Covenant's downfall. Today, we'll be taking a look at the flip side of that story. As we all know from the latest video, there was one Padawan who survived the massacre, Zayne Carrick, who assembled a team of allies and attempted to escape the people trying to kill him, which eventually became pretty much everyone. The full story of Zayne Carrick and the crew of The Last Resort is way too long for this video, so today we'll be focusing on how this one kid managed to piss off a whole freaking galaxy.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Zayne Carrick was born to a low-ranking accountant and gardener on a poor backwater rim world, and was given up to the Jedi Order at an early age in the hopes that it would grant him a better life. But he was only marginally force sensitive, something the Jedi hoped to change with years of training, but it didn't. Zayne could feel and use the Force, but his connection to it remained weak, to the frustration of many Jedi Masters. Eventually, he became the Padawan of Lucian Dre, the head of the Satellite Academy on Taris. On Taris, Zayne constantly disappointed Master Dre, not least of all because his luck, as he put it, ranged from barely tolerable to cataclysmic. Perhaps the most visible example of his terrible luck was the saga of his attempt to bring back black marketeer Marngriff Hieroglyph to justice. He failed not once, not twice, but 8 times to capture him during chases. On his 9th try, he finally succeeded, though to his dismay, it made him late to his own knighting ceremony. But as it turned out, this was a stroke of luck. Said ceremony was a ruse, and when he walked in late, he found the masters of the Satellite Academy standing, lightsabers out, over the corpses of his fellow Padawans. Zayne barely escaped the Jedi Tower, with Griff in tow, and fled to Taris' lower city. As the Jedi Covenant framed him for the massacre and got Taris' police force on the chase, he agreed to free Griff in exchange for his help in escaping. The two of them managed to evade police, the Jedi Covenant, and the local Black Vulca swoop gang, and ultimately secured a ticket off-planet. The mechanic Camper and his friend Jerail became initially unwilling members of Zayne's ragtag band of allies, and the 4 fugitives managed to escape Taris aboard Camper's ship, The Last Resort. As we said earlier, the story from this point forward really is quite long, and we recommend you check it out for yourself through the Knights of the Old Republic comic series. From this point forth, we'll just be picking out stories to tell, in chronological order of course, to illustrate just how much of a wanted man Zayne Carrick became. As we've already told the story of the Jedi Covenant's quest to hunt Zayne down, we won't be going into that here. The Padawan massacre happened 3,964 years before the Battle of Yavin, right before the Mandalorian Wars finally reached the Republic. This, of course, factored quite heavily into Zayne's misadventures. While the crew of The Last Resort was hiding out on Vanquo, they once convinced a crew of miners to evacuate their camp by telling them the Mandalorians were attacking. As they proceeded to rob the camp, however, the Mandalorians actually did attack Vanquo in force, one of the first battles of that theatre of the Mandalorian Wars. During their hasty escape from the Battle of Vanquo, the crew of The Last Resort managed to capture the Mandalorian Roland Dyer. Roland, as it turned out, was a deserter, and he informed Zayne and company of a Mandalorian laboratory on Flashpoint Station, where the Mandalorian doctor, Demogol, experimented on Jedi prisoners. Zayne and Roland travelled to Flashpoint and put an end to Demogol's work, destroying the entire compound. It wasn't the last encounter they had with the Mandalorians, however, or even with Demogol, Mandalore's mad scientist. Not long after, Zayne and Griff, working on their own at that point, stole a freighter on Raldsir and had to join a Republic Navy fleet led by Zayne Carrick to get away with it. Karath's fleet was bound for Serroco, and the 2 fugitives turned their stolen ship into a restaurant at a military camp there, allowing them to lay low for a little while. But while there, Zayne experienced a vision of the Mandalorians bombing the staging area, and so he urged Griff to take off before setting off to inform Admiral Karath. Zayne managed to get to Karath with the help of Karth Onasi, but Karath recognized him immediately. As the Admiral began accusing him of all manner of crimes, from the Padawan massacre to being a Mandalorian spy, a Mandalorian fleet dropped out of hyperspace and attacked. Karath had Zayne locked up during the battle, but when Mandalorians boarded the Republic flagship, Zayne, with Carth's help, managed to escape. Once more, Zayne Carrick narrowly escaped getting killed by the Mandalorians, but the inhabitants of Serroco weren't so lucky, as the entire planet was subjected to nuclear bombardment. Zayne Carrick's adventures eventually took him back to Taris, which at that point had been conquered and occupied by the Mandalorians. Wearing Mandalorian armor as a disguise, Zayne managed to slip into Taris' lower city, where he was confronted by the Hidden Becks, one of the planet's gangs. But as it turned out, the Becks were working with Griff, and as they retreated from Zayne's Mandalorian pursuers, the two partners in crime were reunited. On Taris, Zayne quickly became wrapped up in the local resistance against the Mandalorians, which the Becks and their leader, Gadon Thek, were involved with. This led to a reunion with Master Rana Tay, one of the Jedi Covenant members, and with Shel Jelavan, the brother of one of the murdered Padawans. Though the three entered into an uneasy truce against the Mandalorians at first, things quickly broke down when the three of them were sent together to the old Jedi Tower to kill Cassius Fett. Fett, as fate would have it, wasn't there, and so Rana Tay took the opportunity to try and kill Zayne. Zayne tried to outmaneuver her with the Mandalorian jetpack, but he was no match for her skill, and he would have died to the fallen Jedi Master were it not for Shel, whose quick intervention severely wounded Tay. Tay, nonetheless, tried one final time to kill Zayne, resulting in her death when Griff detonated the explosives which had been planted at the tower. The deaths of the rest of the Jedi Covenant, which we documented in the last video, followed shortly after. But the story of Zayne Carrick didn't end with the Jedi Covenant. Using the credits from his and Griff's misdeeds, he and the families of the murdered Padawans founded the Rogue Moon Project to help those abandoned by the Jedi Order. He and Griff also continued to get involved with all manner of underworld types. But about a year after the Padawan massacre, Zayne had a run-in with a different sort of group, the revanchists. By that point in time, the Jedi Revan and Malak had gathered a following of Jedi eager to aid the Republic in the Mandalorian Wars, and in light of a faithful mission to Cathar, they had been granted sanction by the Jedi Council. Malak, as a matter of fact, was an old friend of Zayne's. He had actually saved him from falling into an untimely end during one of his attempts to capture Griff as a Padawan on Taris. Malak tried to recruit first Zayne and then his companion Jerael unsuccessfully before leaving to make for the front lines. Around that time, Zayne was beginning to work toward eliminating another shadowy group called the Crucible, a secret slaving operation which contracted to a number of powerful Republic business interests. Zayne, working with Jerael, who used to be a member of the Crucible, managed to infiltrate and expose their slaving operation, and then began fouling up their business deals. This earned them the ire of Dace Goliard, an ex-Republic captain who commanded one of the Crucible's private warships. Goliard captured Zayne's ship and even managed to take Jerael prisoner, but Zayne was successful in both rescuing Jerael and in luring Goliard into a trap, allowing Republic authorities to deal with him. The leaders of the Crucible, Shantik and Barringer, were killed shortly after by Demigol, the Mandalorian scientist Zayne had defeated months before. Fortunately for Zayne, Jerael, and all others involved, Demigol managed to get himself killed in the process, tying up that loose end pretty neatly. So, those were some excerpts of the story of Zayne Carrick, but we want to know what you think. Would you be interested in a video exploring any of these incidents in further detail, or are there others from Zayne's story that you'd like to see us dive into? Feel free to post your thoughts in the comments section below. And just before you go guys, as per usual, make sure you check out all those juicy links in the description below, including our Geetsly's gaming network where you can join us on Gary's Mod and Roblox, our main Geetsly's Discord where you can chat with myself and other Star Wars fans, and the Patreon if you want to help support the channel. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Elozer. Zououp. Général Kenobi. Ah.